Thank you very much, comrades. We really ought to get these hotel facilities sorted out, because they've not got anything anywhere for me to park my broomstick. This has obviously been a really difficult time. There's no getting away from that, and I don't think we should try and get away from that. I think it's been politically traumatic, emotionally traumatic, and I think all of us have learned an awful lot, and it's really important that we learn an awful lot and we use those lessons, I think, for the future. When I was thinking about what I say here today, it actually caused me quite a bit of difficulty. I always find meetings like this the hardest places to speak, much harder than the Parliament or any other public meetings or in a branch or in a picket line or involved in a strike. Always, always harder. So I have to confess, I'm not really in a sort of chest-beating mood. When you're a woman, your breasts tend to get in the way of that anyway. But I've just reflected a wee bit, I suppose, in the party that I joined and was attracted to. Looking at our constitution, broad, pluralist, inclusive, where different opinions were valued, where diversity and dissent were positive things. A party that's opposed to racism and sexism, and who would challenge the behaviour of any members who exhibited behaviour like that. So who would have predicted that our biggest asset, in quotes, could, through an enormous and selfish and dishonest ego, bring the movement and the SSP to the brink of destruction on the altar of that ego? That, in fact, our biggest asset would become our biggest liability. And unfortunately, that a section of our party, despite our commitments on paper, would collude with that. I do think, comrades, that for us to move on and recover and build, we need to be a bit introspective and honest with ourselves. I think that honesty is a huge advantage as we take our ideas and our campaigns and our politics to the streets and the living rooms of the country. I think everyone should feel free to express their opinions. No, everybody in this room is going to agree with me, but it's nice to be listened to, unlike that horrible National Council in May. Some people today have leafleted the meeting, suggesting that our problems are rooted in the national question. Now, I don't agree with that, but I'm really, really pleased, Sandy, wherever you are, that you're here today to tell us that. Now, I do think it's a wee bit far-fetched, mind you, and I wasn't sure if I would say this or no, but I'm not sure that Tommy's activity had anything to do with nationalism, because he did go quite far afield, you know, and cross borders. But I'll look forward to the discussion in the pub where you explain that one. There's no doubt in my mind that the responsibility for this crisis lies at the feet of Tommy Sheridan. And we do need to cut through the myth and confront the reality of that. But we do have a democratic and accountable constitution. We have the workers' wage policy. But comrades, it wasn't enough. Tommy did, unfortunately, and sadly and regretfully, and I don't take any pleasure in it, participate in sexual activity where a profit was made. He expected people to lie, to risk their own reputations and liberty, to save his skin, and then framed them up when they refused. It's alright, I'm used to it. He's consistently ran away from democracy and accountability and treated comrades with contempt. In his trial, women were cast as witches, liars, gold diggers and whores, or unstable or mentally ill. including a member of his own party. He cross-examined women he had a sexual relationship with about their mutual activity, their sexual history, and then he called them liars. Nobody else in this episode, and I think we've all got lessons to learn, but nobody else in this episode comes close to matching the horror of that behaviour. Now, we could take the top 100 monopolies into public ownership or whatever the CWI's prescription for socialism is these days. But that sort of behaviour is not socialism in my book. He was given succour in our own party by groups like the SWP and CWI, who were never particularly fond of the establishment of the SSP in the first place, and unfortunately seized an opportunity to inflict damage on the SSP. I think it's quite interesting that the CWI have now moved to form a new party, which presumably is going to stand candidates in the northeast of Scotland, when they led the charge for the SSP to stand aside for John McCallion when he was in the Labour Party. But presumably they're going to be competing against him when he's in the Scottish Socialist Party. How ridiculous. He was given succour by people who'd rather believe, quite frankly, pish about women particularly, than the truth about Tommy Sheridan. Given succour by people whose mentality would be better expressed at tonight's Robbie Williams concert. Tomorrow, Tommy, despite all that, will be lauded by those same people as, in quotes, the greatest socialist icon of the post-war period. I think that was the great sage Stevie Arnott that said that. A party allegedly of solidarity. A party with two MSPs who are currently effectively threatening staff with redundancy unless they transfer their employment and change their political allegiance. Solidarity? I don't think so. How can the theory and the ideals of socialism be so dramatically divorced? How is it that women have been so easily scapegoated and demonised from the beginning of this crisis? Far from being gender obsessed like Joanne, we women have conceded too much, actually. We've self-censored ourselves too much under pressure to preserve peace and harmony, just like in the household controlled by an abusive man. It was actually two courageous men who stood up to Tommy Sheridan in the first place. But sexism and misogyny ensured that an Aunt Sally was found. I'm one of them. I'm really proud that this party has stood up to Tommy Sheridan, and to those who would so easily compromise on truth, integrity, principles and equality. There's a whole layer of people out there, women and young people especially, I think, who will see our stand as a beacon of hope. We'll see that we're serious in building a different society based on equality and liberation. Yes, liberation from poverty and economic slavery, but also liberation from oppression in all its forms. We need to fight to liberate every individual woman, man and child in their heads, to help them understand their relationship to society and to each other. To unleash the collective power they hold to take control of their destinies. As well as painting our vision of the future, we can make a difference today by building solid foundations on which the SSP and the movement can grow and withstand any egotistical personality that happens along our way. we do first need to look at ourselves and put our vision and ideals of the sort of society we want to build into practice in our own party. We've got much to be proud of already. Most of the blueprint is already there. We have the most open, democratic, inclusive and accountable constitution I'm aware of. But I do think sometimes, and we have to be honest about that, our culture, our methods, our baggage have gotten in the way of making that a living, vibrant thing. I'm not sure our current structures are up to the job of delivering the sort of party that includes us all and excites us all on a day-to-day basis. Everybody wanting to join our party should be welcomed and valued for the life experience they bring and whatever contribution they can make. No one should be made to feel stupid or inferior or guilty. Consciousness about the particular difficulties of women and oppressed groups should be practical as well as abstract. We need to be able to look at ourselves individually and collectively and accept criticism. We need to put the party and the movement first above all our individual interests. We have seen the rising of the women through this travesty. That confidence will be harnessed and grow stronger. I hope the men in the party, and I know a lot of them will, welcome that and take up the challenge to examine their own power and actions and the impact they have on the women round about them. It's too easy to put assertiveness or the challenge of women down to personality clashes, to see qualities valued in men as ill-befitting women. Consciousness in these issues has been thrown back about 30 years. I just bought a recent CD, Loretta Lynn. She was 13, 4 weans before she was 18 and umpteen miscarriages. And she wrote a song in the late 60s called The Pill, and it was banned by all the redneck DJs in the country music scene. We're still fighting that battle in 2006. But the fight is on to win back that consciousness. We all want a society of equals, where no one is more equal than others. We'll be capable of getting there a whole lot faster by building a party of equals where no one is more equal than others. I'm going to finish by saying how much admiration, love and respect that I have for those who've stood in the firing line of this for a very, very long time and who've made sacrifices above and beyond that probably no one will ever fully understand. I salute everybody who's here today, and I salute the courage of those who've never wavered and have taken the principled decision to be here today and to remain in the Scottish Socialist Party. I think some people will know who I'm talking about. Some of them are women and already members of the Coven. Some of them are men and already honorary members of the Coven. I'm not going to name anybody, but you all know who you are. And this movement and this party owes an enormous debt of gratitude to you. Thank you.